There we go. All righty. Welcome, everybody. We are going to be covering a Zipforms masterclass today on creating buyer templates. So hello to all the ready agents. It looks like we've even got some of our training associates in here, like Greg Wierzakowski, which just goes to show no matter how long you've been in the business or how good you get, it's always good to keep learning and going through all the different resources. One of the great things with technology is it's always allowing us to be more efficient and giving us some really great tools. So we're always updating and adding these additional trainings for you guys. So we do have the buyer templates this week, and then in 2 weeks we will be having the seller templates. So be on the lookout for that. Again, the ready agents, this will be recorded on your dashboard. I'm going to show you guys where you're going to find that under the Learning Resource Center. We'll also post it on our group Facebook page. If you are currently a champion student, or you're inactive, or you're with another brokerage, welcome. We're excited to have you guys training with us today. That's kind of the great thing about real estate is we all use the same tools. It's all the same job, the same contracts. So you guys are going to pick up some pretty neat tips and tricks from everything today. If you guys do have questions as we're going through, if you don't mind, go ahead and throw them in our chat box, and we'll do a little Q&A at the end just so we keep the class flowing and moving and grooving. We do have one of our broker owners that's in with us today, Mr. Vaughn Sutton. So he's pretty knowledgeable as well as you guys are going through. Again, you guys can put questions in the chat box and we'll get to everybody at the end. Looks like we've still got a couple through the waiting room, but we need to go ahead and get this kicked off. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into our screen share here. There we go. All righty. Hopefully everybody can see. Let's get our little smaller box here. Perfect. All right. So first and foremost, what you're going to need to do is log into your Zipforms account. Now, there are multiple ways to do that. You can do that through the Texas Association of Realtors website and click on the Zipforms link. If you have your quick links set up on your Ready Agent dashboard, you can click on your quick links and then just hit Zipforms. All you'll have to do is log in, and it'll typically bring you to your transactions page. Now, again, we're not going to do a full run through of Zipforms today. Today, we're going to be focusing on creating templates with a specific focus on buyers. So from here, you're going to go ahead and go click on templates and then hit forms and checklists. Now, you guys will be able to see here, I already have some templates set for a new buyer, a new seller, or a new lease tenant. So from here, to create a new buyer template, I'm going to show you guys that process, and then we'll actually go into one that's already created with the forms you're going to need. You're simply going to go to New, and you're going to hit on this plus sign here in the upper left-hand corner. And since we're working with a buyer, it's going to be a new purchase or offer. Once we click there, you would put new buyer or whatever you would like to have your template name be. For this example, we're just going to do test. You're going to click on residential, particularly with Ready Real Estate. Again, you guys know that we do farm and ranch, multifamily, vacant lot and acreage, commercial, but the bread and butter, what we do over here is the residential. So that's most likely what your template folder is going to be. And then from here, you're going to click automatically apply this template to purchase residential new transactions. Once you have that all set up, you'll simply click save and you'll have your new folder pop up. So that would be here, our new buyer. So we're going to go ahead and open this up. And what I recommend, again, it's completely your personal preference, is to try and keep things tidy and organized so it's easy to see what forms you've pulled, what part of your phase in your transaction that you're in. So to do that, I recommend creating folders. So I've got my folders created here of the buyer representation agreement packet, my offer and purchase packet, and then where my signed forms will go. So to create a folder, you'll simply go to Add Folder. We'll use that one as a test. And then you'll see where it's going to pop up here. The reason why I like having the signed folder, the signed forms folder, is you can automatically assign for where signed forms go once you're using AuthentiSign or DocuSign, whatever your preferred signature software is with Zipforms. Whenever a form is completed, when the e-sign packet is done, it will automatically pull all of those completed forms into the signed forms folder. But we're going to go ahead and start with our buyer representation agreement packet. Now, what we're going to be going through, these are all not required to get all the way through a transaction, but we're very big with transparency and disclosure. You can never over disclose with a new client. So you'll see there might be some additional forms in here that you haven't seen before or not familiar with. So we're going to do a quick run through of what those look like. Starting first and foremost, and everyone should be familiar with the information about brokerage services form. So that is going to be the IABS. It is TXR-2501. And when I send all of this out as a recap for everyone today, I will include a list of all of the TXR nomenclature forms just to make it a little bit easier to search. But while you guys are pulling these up, again, I've already gone through and pulled all the forms that we're going to need for today. But if you're in a new folder, for example, if we're under test and we're needing to pull up a form, went a little bit fast there. Let's slow that down. In the upper right-hand corner, so I've opened my new folder. I'm going to go to All Forms. When I click on All Forms, I'm going to use the top drop-down box, and then I'm going to select All. So that is going to be the library. It's going to pull all the forms, addenda, amendment, disclosures, everything that you're going to possibly need. And then from here, why I prefer using the TXR label names instead of having to do, say, IABS, you can type in IABS and we'll see information about brokerage services. And then we've got buyer or seller. Or I can type in TXR 2501. Oops, that's 2401. That's later on, 2501. And then it's going to bring up our information about brokerage services for a buyer. When I click there, it will bring it up. I've already got it clicked on in our other folder. So if I'm just doing this, for example, this one is going to be for a seller. But if I clicked here, you'll see it automatically pulls the IABS into this folder. So that's how you will search and pull up the forms you're going to need. So starting with our IABS and Ready Agents as well, don't forget on your Ready dashboard, there's the sample contracts tab. So as we're going through and filling this out and the information is going quick, for example, the IABS. And the reason why we're using these templates is, as you guys know, we don't write the contracts, the attorneys do. Well, most of what we do is a lot of copy and paste from the MLS. A lot of the information in our contracts and forms, it stays the same. So when you're creating a template, it's going to make you a lot faster when you're filling out your purchase offers. So IABS, for example, I've got everything filled out. And if you're a new agent or new to Ready Real Estate and you're wondering where to get this information from, if you go into your Ready dashboard and click on the Learn tab, and then go to Learning Resources, click open the Documents folder, and you're going to see an entire folder titled Sample Contracts. And you'll even see here, I've got Sample IABS. So this is where I'm able to pull up all of that information, and I can literally copy and paste all of this and put it directly into my IABS. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Just remember, you're going to put your name, your license number, and your contact information here. Then you'll hit save, and then you're going to go back to your other documents. Now, there's going to be two different forms we're going to talk about. We're going to spend a little bit more time on these today. This one's a little bit more specific with Ready Real Estate and what we call with our Ready system. So there are two different types of buyer representation agreement packets. There's the long form and there's the short form. So we're going to touch first on the short form and how to utilize this. So the short form is really good when you are practicing something, we call it Ready Real Estate showing blind. So this might be a new lead that you picked up off of Facebook. Maybe it was a referral from, a family friend or someone at work that you don't know very well. One of the reasons why a lot of new agents have an issue with getting their buyers to sign a buyer rep is because they want to, before even meeting them, send them a buyer representation agreement packet that's going to lock them in with you, working with you for 6 months, which can be a little bit daunting, guys. Remember, we are unfortunately the fifth least trusted profession. And if no one has ever met you before, it makes it a little bit scary. And they're going to be very hesitant about signing a buyer rep agreement with you. With the no TREC and NAR rules, we are required to have signed buyer representation agreement forms before showing any property. So the short form is a really great way of being able to show blind and get in front of the customer and be able to actually do what we call your value proposition. So at Ready Real Estate, this one is a little bit specific to us. Again, if you're at another brokerage, you guys may have different restrictions or however you guys do this, but at Ready, you're going to use the short form just for if you're going to go show them one or three properties. Again, you're getting in front of somebody just for the first time. And I don't recommend just, hey, I have to have you sign this, it's required. Take a little bit more time to explain what this form is for. Legally, I am required to have this signed in order to show you properties. It's going to be a short form. It's going to cover the counties that we're allowed to show in. It's going to be between, say, Joe Buyer and Ready Real Estate. And then this is where you're going to see the term agreement. Now, typically, oftentimes we see buyer rep agreements that go anywhere from 3 to 6 months. But for our short form, again, remember, we're not trying to scare the buyer or lock them in. We're just going to go show blind, say they want to see one property. What I would do is I can put this for as little as one day. Say they want to go see a property on Friday the 17th. I can put it for as little as one day. Now, personally, I never want to waste time just showing one property. I will also like to pull two other properties that are close in the area that are comparable. They're very similar because I'm going to try to spend, as much time within reason with the new prospect as possible. I want to show them three properties. Typically, I can do that in a day. If you are a newer agent and you are trying to build your book of business, it might be a good idea to even be okay with possibly showing 1 or 2 days. Maybe you're going to go show them three on that Friday, three on that Saturday. So you can do it for even a 2-day period. After that, that's when you're going to want to move to transitioning to having them sign the long form. So say when you're going again the very next weekend. If they're still not okay with signing a buyer rep agreement after going and seeing homes with you for 2 days, there's a disconnect somewhere. They haven't picked up on why they want to work with you. So you're lacking in the value proposition. So this is again going to be just initial prospects that you haven't met with before that are not okay with signing a long form with you. And you're going to under 5 broker's obligations, you're going to do showing services. This is strictly just to show them the properties. Now, at Ready Real Estate, we do not charge a fee to show properties because remember, guys, one, we are not allowed to accept payments or commissions directly from the consumers. Everything has to go through the brokerage. And we have a $75 processing fee. So if you're wanting to charge them $150 just to go show one or two houses, guys, one, the buyer is not going to pay that, but it's going to scare them away. And especially if you're trying to do that for every single home, then it has to go through the brokerage. So again, remember, you're trying to earn their business. You're trying to show a value proposition. So I would use this as a section to highlight and show them something unique that I do is I'm not going to charge. So you can click on the box, hit the space bar, and it's going to turn it that turquoise color, and you can write 0. And when you're explaining the buyer rep to them, as you're going to send it to them as an e-signature packet, you can let them know, hey, I'm going to go show you these 3 properties today. I am not going to charge you anything. It's so that we can go see if we're a good fit for each other. Then under the broker's compensation, again, most brokerages, the good brokerages out there, guys, they're having their sellers, the clients, they are still offering out BACs or buyer agent commissions. So that is something that you can cover with the buyer because they may freak out a little bit when they see, well, I'm a first-time home buyer and I always thought it was free to work with a realtor. And now this is saying I've got to pay you 3%. This is where you can educate and explain that first you're going to seek to obtain commission from the listing brokerage or seller. So you'll put 3% here. And if you're working with leases, you can put 35, 40% here. That's I wanted to focus on mainly today. Again, we're not going to get too far in depth onto this one, but that's what you're going to use the short form for. Now, once you've actually built rapport and relationship and shown your value proposition with the new customer and they're ready to keep working with you, they want to be a client, that's when you'll be able to jump in and use the long form, which is going to be the TXR 1501. So it's going to be a little bit longer, quite a bit more detailed, but you're going to put the client information here, Ready Real Estate's information here. Again, Ready Agents, if you're not sure where to find this information, under that same sample contracts folder, you can pull it up and then you'll find the buyer tenant representation agreement. You'll see long form here and short form here as well. This is going to be where you have the longer term. So, okay, we went and showed, we looked at 3 homes on Friday. They want to work with me. We're going to go back out on Saturday. I only did my short form for a day. So I'm going to start from here. And then this is where I can go 6 months out. Same thing with the broker's compensation. Nothing changes there. You can add in your protection period where the amounts are payable to. Ready Real Estate, our accounting office is Parker, working intermediary. So it's a little bit more detailed than the long form, but what's particularly helpful with this is it's also going to show under 16 addenda all the additional disclosures we're going to include in the packet, like the information about brokerage services, general information and notice to buyers and sellers, for your protection, get an inspection. You should always be sending that out to your buyers. The wire fraud warning, anything that you guys need is in here. And at Ready Real Estate, if you are going to rebate, which guys, this is a really great way, again, especially if you're a newer agent trying to build up that book of business and you're on 100% commission, we have the ability to offer rebates. Now, you can't give any of your commission directly to a client. You guys know that. That's a kickback. That's a big no-no. They'll come for your license, but you are able to rebate through the brokerage. So, for example, if I'm choosing to rebate somebody 1%, that's going to be a really great value for them. If anybody in here has, bought a home, think of what your realtor, got you as a closing gift, if they got you anything. Oftentimes I hear people, well, I didn't get anything from my realtor, or maybe I got a cutting board or a bottle of wine. If you guys are assisting them with closing costs, that is going to be huge, especially where rates are at. 1%, again, at 100% commission, say it's even a $400,000 home. If I'm getting a 3% commission from the listing brokerage, that's going to be $12,000 commission total. But I'm going to tell my client, hey, when I receive a 3% commission from the listing brokerage, Ready Real Estate, not me, they're going to rebate the buyer 1% of the purchase price. If the lender will allow, rebate will be used for closing costs. If not, it will be paid by check after funding. Guys, this is a really great way if you're trying to get someone to sign a buyer rep agreement with you. You're essentially saying, hey, I'm going to give you $4,000 just to work with me. That sounds a lot more attractive than I get you a cutting board at closing. And the great thing with that, sure, maybe my commission goes from 12,000 to 8,000, which is still really good. I used to do that when I was a new agent, simply because I always looked at it like if I was at any other brokerage or, kind of franchise, I was going to be giving them at least 30% anyways. So since I'm doing all the work, I'd rather give that 1% to my buyer because they're going to be a walking, talking billboard for me. So if you guys are going to go that route, this is the verbiage you're going to want to use, but make sure that you're going, if you're doing 1%, again, it can be any amount. It could be $1,000. It could be, hey, I'll pay for your survey, whatever you guys want to do. But if you're doing something like I did at 1%, make sure you clarify when Ready Real Estate receives 3% commission from the listing brokerage. Because if I don't include that and just say, hey, I'm going to give you 1%, and I'm, reaching out to the listing agents and saying, hey, are you working anything, any offers in writing? Is the seller offering a BAC? And they tell me maybe they're only doing 2.5 or 2%. Well, at that point, no, I'm not going to rebate the 1%, but I've at least clarified that in the beginning. So I'm not having to go back and go, well, they're actually only offering 2% on this one, so I can't do that rebate. Now it's kind of like poison the well a little bit. Looks like I've gone back on what I promised them. So as long as you're upfront and transparent about everything in the beginning and they know this, when you do let them know, hey, by the way, they're only offering 2.5% on that one, so I can give a 0.5% commission, but I can't do a full percent. That way it's already been transparent and it doesn't come up as a surprise for anybody. All right, and that's the long form. The next form we're going to be covering, and again, these are not required. I just like to over disclose, give my clients as much information as possible. There's the general info and notice to buyers and sellers. This is the buyer edition. And this one is going to be the TXR 2508. And this just goes through and gives general information, terms and definitions of all of the important, pretty much terms in the real estate transaction, like appraisals, brokers, environmental concerns, things on FERPTA. All of that is going to be disclosed through here. Very easy, just an additional disclosure that allows them to review all the additional terms. And then you're going to have it with your brokerage name and your name here. Oh, I apologize, guys. I've got some people in the waiting room. There we go. Now we got them in. All right. So that is the TXR 2508 information concerning property information. The next one is going to be general information and notice to buyers and sellers. Oh, excuse me, we just did that one. The next one we're going to do is the info about property insurance for a buyer. And that one's the 2508. The general information notice to buyers is TXR 1506. And again, I will send out this list to everybody. All right, so this is just going to be general information about property insurance that a buyer is going to need. It's for buyer and seller, but they have the different versions for buyer or seller. Very general overview, but again, great additional disclosure to have. Now, our next, and in my opinion, one of our most important, is going to be the for-year protection, get a home inspection. If you're with Ready Real Estate, this should be going out with every single one of your buyer representation agreement packets. This is what it's going to look like. And if you'd like some more information, for-year protection, get a home inspection, if you're newer and you want some more information on what that entails, under the Ready dashboard, same place of that Learning Resource Center. If you open property inspections, reports, and disclosures, this is going to have a little bit more on the disclosures we're going to talk about in the purchase packet, like the inspector information, inspectors and engineers, what to expect from the inspection. But all of these forms that we're going to be pulling up, you can also find here, along with a training tutorial walkthrough that will explain what happens during an inspection and how to educate your clients as you're going through with that and get them prepared as well. Additionally, you'll find inspection reports and repair amendments training that's on here with our training broker associate, Sean, as well. Once we have our for your protection, get an inspection, I like to include the wire fraud warning. Again, these are not required, but there have been a lot of issues with phishing scams. I've heard some horrible stories from agents at other brokerages where their client maybe sent, $5,000 in earnest money over because someone is looking up and seeing transactions have gone pending. So there's a lot of these wire fraud scams that are out there. So I do like including this one. It's been a lot more prevalent, I'd say, over the past 3 years. So this is just going to be a quick little overview about not being a victim with wire fraud. And then 2 additional disclosures and pamphlets in here. Again, not a requirement. You're going to have the mold remediation consumer protection, as well as the protect your family from lead in your home. I always include those in the packet, even if they've been looking at, say, homes that are built in the 90s or the 2000s. You just never know if they pivot to a different area. All of a sudden, maybe they're making an offer on a home built in 1970, which now we're going to have the lead-based paint addendum. But now I don't have to remember, hey, did I send them the packet and information on this? So I automatically include it just as a good rule of thumb. So that is a quick little overview, again, of all of the forms you're going to need just for the buyer's representation agreement packet. Now you guys can see why templates are going to be pretty helpful, because instead of each time I have a new purchase offer that I need to make, I now don't have to go to up here in forms and manually pull all of these different forms and notices, and I don't have to keep filling out the information over and over and over again. It's automatically going to have all of the what we call rinse and repeat information already saved. So all I have to go through is very quickly update the client information, highlight for an e-signature packet, and then I'm done. All right, now if I hit back, we're going to move over to our offer packet. Now, again, this may vary a little bit depending on your personal preference. I've tried to pull what are going to be some of the most common forms or addendums that you're going to be using when putting together your purchase packet. So, for example, we have the 1 to 4 family contract. And there is something I want to touch briefly on this. You guys know we just talked about this on the Ready Real Estate conference call on Thursday. Vaughn did put that training video that is up on the group Facebook page. There is a small change that I wanted to talk and cover in here with you guys. If you're looking for more information on it, Same thing, pop open under your sample contracts folder, pull open the sample 1 to 4 family. And what we're going to touch on at Ready Real Estate, you guys know we partner with Texas Title. We already get permission to negotiate on their behalf for them in the beginning due to rest of Section 9. It is their right. So I don't even look at the MLS when, a listing brokerage has a preferred title company. It could be XYZ Title. Private remarks could say, title has already been opened at XYZ Title Company. You guys know that's just a very old school trick, trying to get new agents or agents who don't advocate for their clients to just use whatever title company they prefer. At Ready Real Estate, guys, in your templates, make your life easy. Already have Texas Title, Team Vanessa, 601 Xena Rucker Road, South Lake. And then typically, again, what we see is about $150 for an option fee for about 7 days. And then I leave the earnest money blank just because good little rule of thumb is usually about 1%. But now that we're not in as many competitive and multiple offer situations, good buyer agents, we do try to put as little money at risk as possible for our clients. So, say the home is, we're putting an offer for 450,000. Doing a $4,000 earnest fee is not going to be, completely unreasonable. So that's our little note there. Put it as Texas Title ready to go. That way you don't have to keep putting in all of that information. But what we're going to touch on, and we're actually going to pop over to our little sample contract here. And the broker did just put this on there for you guys as a resource because we've been getting a lot of questions on it. I think I already scrolled through. There we go. Settlement and other expenses. So the addendum regarding the broker fees is no longer required. They have now added this into the contract. So you're going to see here's our little note on it. So for B, only use that if there is not TXR 2402. That's the compensation agreement between brokers. So that's the listing brokerage that's going to be paying out the BAC. So you're only going to be using B if the seller is paying the co-op brokerage, so the buyer brokerage side directly. You are no longer having to do an addendum for that one, so it's going to go here under B. And then only use C if the seller is paying part of the buyer's closing costs. This is not commission. The reason why this is important, and I know it's going to happen, not to you guys, of course, because you guys are being good agents and being in a training, is if you put 3% here, and then you also have a TXR 2402 signed, what's happened is you've essentially, and that seller, the brokerage, whoever, they sign off on that, that is saying that, hey, I'm going to be getting 3% commission from the listing brokerage, but I'm also going to be getting 3% here. So you're essentially tying in the seller for 6% of that purchase price. So on that flip side, ready agents, when you're the listing agent, be paying attention to this. If they have sent you the compensation agreement between brokers, that TXR 2402, and you're signing off on that for anywhere from 2 to 3% on a BAC, do not execute this contract if there is also an amount under B. So if you guys have questions on that one, hold on to it, throw it in our chat box. We can address that later, but just because that has been a recent change and a lot of questions coming up on it recently, I did want to clarify on that one very quickly for you. All right, moving on. Other things that you're going to use that are normal for your typical transactions are going to be your third-party financing addendum, and that is going to be TXR 1901. Again, we're not going to pull that up because it could be FHA, VA, it could be conventional. There's tons of different options. And just again, as a reminder, ready agents, we have samples on all of those. So if you're looking for sample third-party financing, FHA, do I put 203B or 203K? What does that look like? You can always pull these open. Now, if you're having a cash buyer, guys, that is absolutely okay. Remember, you don't have to use these forms when you're sending them in the digital e-signature packet. It's just to save you time so you don't have to constantly keep going back to your form library, searching the forms, and pulling them every single time. Other common forms you guys are going to use is the addendum for property subject to mandatory association for homeowners, aka the HOA addendum. And that one is going to be TXR 1922. Most likely, you're going to have an amendment. I'd be pretty shocked, and it's pretty rare, not to say it doesn't happen, where there are zero amendments or changes to the contracts or terms as you're going through. Typically, again, with inspections, there's repair amendments, there's allowances in lieu of repairs. So it is likely you're going to be using at least one amendment. So the amendment is going to be TXR 1903A. You're also welcome to add amendment number 2, number 3, number 4. It's absolutely your choice, but I have just one pulled up, hoping we don't have to do too many changes as we're going through. Other things that are going to be very common, of course, your compensation agreement between broker and owners. That's that TXR 2402. That is if I have texted the listing agent, said, are we working any offers in writing? And they say no. And I say, okay, is the seller offering a BAC? And they say yes, 3%. Great. That means it's going through the listing brokerage. So I'm going to send over the compensation agreement between brokers as well. Other common forms, the seller's temporary residential lease. That's going to be TXR 1910. Because oftentimes, and that's kind of a good rule of thumb, is if the home is occupied, again, ideally, we like to keep everything on track for closings, but closings do get pushed, which huge reason why, guys, when we are big on using the ready preferred lending partners like neighborhood loans with Team Varela, it's so that you guys close on time. If it's with Bank of America or, XYZ mortgage, it makes it a lot more difficult. You're going to run into delays. You're going to run into lenders that are not communicating, and you may end up having to push the closing. So by putting a seller's temporary residential lease, it's pretty common in courtesy to see anywhere from to 1 to 2 days, about 48 hours. That is helpful because if that closing does get pushed, then it allows the sellers to be in the home for 2 days post-closing and funding. So if they're needing to move to their next place, because if not, well, they've got to close on this home, but they're purchasing their next home. So now they're at the title company and they've got their U-Haul out front. It's raining and they're expecting to close today. You're not able to, and now they've got nowhere to go. So that's a good little rule of thumb, adding your seller's temporary residential lease. Alrighty, moving on to other ones that are going to be really important for you guys. The inspector information, that's the TXR 2506. I'm going to show you guys what this looks like and ready agents where to find it. Not only do we always, of course, recommend for your protection, get an inspection, but this is going to show them and then you'll put 123 Main Street, whatever your property is, and the date. And this is going to be a disclosure. See attached document list of inspectors and engineers, and they're going to indicate I have chosen to hire an inspector. If they are not choosing to hire an inspector, there's going to be two ways I'm going to show you how to protect yourself and the brokerage and make sure that everybody is very clear and transparent on it. At Ready Real Estate, unless it is a investment property that is falling down around itself, and even then I still recommend getting them done, they should always be getting an inspection. If they're avid and they're saying no, you're going to have them sign off on this because this is going to protect you in two different places. But again, they should be choosing, I want to hire an inspector, have see attached document list of inspectors and engineers. At Ready Real Estate, all you guys have to do is under that property inspections, reports, and disclosures, you can pull open the number 3 list of inspectors and engineers. That's going to have inspection companies, foundation repair. It's going to have a couple of contractors that are on here. All you have to do is download this form. And then you're going to upload it into your documents. See where I have list of inspectors and engineers. To do that, I would just go to add document, browse for document, and I would hit browse for file. And then there's that list of inspectors and engineers. I would click that, hit upload, and it's automatically going to pull that PDF for me. I am also going to include in here what to expect from the inspection. Same folder in the Ready dashboard, pull open what to expect from the inspection. You're going to download it. And just as a quick little review and run through, guys, this is going to let them know what is an inspection, how do I choose an inspector, time is of the essence, if you should attend. And then it gives a pretty detailed run through of all the things that are going to be covered within the inspection report. And then more importantly, what their options are, accepting as is, asking for repairs, asking for money instead, what the seller's options are. So it's a good little run through of what's going to happen during the inspection report. And I don't care if it's their first home or their 15th home that they're purchasing, I make it a good rule of thumb and a practice to send it every time. So same practice, you'll hit add document and upload it from your computer file. And then last but not least, again, hopefully something we don't have to use, but the notice of buyer's termination of contract. Unfortunately, things do terminate in the option period. Cold feet, bad inspection report, some things on there that they're not willing to work with the seller to fix. Typically, again, we always look at the big three: roof, foundation, HVAC, which can be negotiated. Everything else is usually pretty minor or cosmetic and fixable. But if you ever do need to terminate, there you have the notice of buyer's termination of contract, and that is TXR 1902. All righty. That is our templates class. We're not going to go into e-signatures today. Again, we're going to keep it very simple with just the buyer templates itself. If you would like some additional training, we are going to be going into the checklists. So these are what we call, these are going to be later on once we have our buyer and seller templates created. We're going to do an additional training on the checklists, and this is going to create automated items that will send you reminders, send forms depending on the task. So if I want to hit a create a new task, remind me when I am sending when I'm in my option period, because I'm going to be updating it through my transaction, remind me to send the inspector information, list of inspectors and engineers, and what to expect from the inspection. So that way it's not something that I have forgotten to do. They always have it and they're prepared, and not trying to send it, well, now that it's after the inspection here, by the way, you should need all of these things. Oh, goodness gracious. I almost missed one of the most important forms. Goodness gracious. I'm so glad I popped back over here. Sorry, guys. One more form, and I do think this is one of the most important to protect you and the brokerage and your clients, is the buyer's walkthrough confirmation and acceptance form. Now, this one that is specific to Ready Real Estate, we do require this in order to, do your CDA and have your transaction filed and funded on the Ready dashboard. You guys have to have the buyer's walkthrough confirmation and acceptance form. Again, this is where it's going to kind of go back to why you want to make sure they get an inspection. So they will have to indicate, I have chosen to have an inspection, or I have not chosen to have an inspection. They'll also have to answer, after we had repairs completed, I chose the property to be re-inspected or have it not re-inspected. Residential service contract, aka the home warranty. This is where we're going to mark. And again, at Ready Real Estate, you guys know that goes in paragraph 7H pertaining to the residential service contract. We do $650 for the diamond plan. We put that in every single one of our offers. Sellers know they're already paying for that. So they've got a residential service contract. And then here's where they have chosen to do a walkthrough or not to do a walkthrough. This is very important because you should also, of course, be verifying if there were any repairs or requests that were done. Remember, on your repair amendment, it should include that verbiage of proof of repairs, all invoices and receipts to be provided to buyer prior to closing. But you should also have them walk through the property, because maybe now everything looked okay, but they moved out and it's 2 days before closing. Your buyer goes through there, everything's gone now, and like all the living room furniture, and now there's a massive stain on the like white carpet in the living room. If you didn't do the walkthrough and they don't know about that, what's going to happen is they're going to close and fund, and then they're going to move into their property. They're going to see this massive stain and going, well, hey, this wasn't in the condition or what we knew it as when we purchased the property. They're going to be upset. Now you're going to be trying to go after the sellers, which they're not going to answer or pay for anything. This is closed and funded. We're done. And who do you think is probably going to be having to offer to help pay for a new carpet? because you did not have them go walk through the property prior to make sure it was in the original condition when you put the offer in. And then the last one is sight unseen. This is if the buyer has reviewed the property in person, or if they have not. You'd be surprised. This actually does happen somewhat often. Sometimes it's an investor, maybe somebody is purchasing from out of state. But make sure with Ready Real Estate, you guys are required to have this. I do it just as rule of thumb with my buyers. As the listing agent, I do the same thing. I send this to the buyer agent and say, hey, I'm going to need to have this signed. This is going to protect you, the client, and the brokerage. Make this a rule of thumb that you have this every single transaction, whether you represent the buyer or the seller. Alrighty, guys. 45 minutes in. Perfect. We hit our timeline exactly where we needed to be. We're going to go ahead and pop over to our chat box. If anybody has any questions, you are welcome to put it in the chat box, or you can also unmute yourself. We'll leave it open here for about 5 minutes if anybody has any questions.
Christy?
I had a question.
Nope, I think we had two people come through. I heard Quabena first. Hey,
Hey, that buyer walkthrough, how does that work on the seller side? And on the buyer side, if we do find a big stain in the carpet, how do we proceed with asking, the seller to fix that?
well, at that point, so you should always have that, of course, when you're representing the buyer, but I do the same thing as the listing agent. I will send it to the buyer agent and say, hey, I need you to complete this for me. It's for compliance for our office.
Okay.
So they'll know all that information if they had an inspection, if it was re-inspected, if they purchased sight unseen, they'll get it signed, they'll provide it to you. But say you do have the final walkthrough and it's 3 days before closing, we've got this massive issue. At that point, the buyers are allowed to say, like, hey, nope, this was not disclosed, this is not the original condition the property was in, and they can say, we're not closing until this is fixed. So oftentimes the sellers don't want to have to, like, well, now I'm going to go put in new carpet. They were the ones that did not disclose that the home was not in the original condition. So what the title company can do is they can actually authorize them and say, hey, withhold $500 from us from the proceeds of the sale to give to like the buyer so they can replace the carpet. But they can say, hey, we're not going to be closing on this. The home is not in the original condition. Did that answer your
Hey,
question?
yes, it does. Thank you.
And guys, you'd be surprised. I've actually had that happen, where the buyers wait to do and that's why I actually don't like doing the final walkthrough the morning of. Again, with our partners with Texas Title, they'll literally go close the buyers at the home because they do free mobile notary closings. And sometimes agents are like, well, I'll just do the final walkthrough beforehand and then we'll sign. The problem is if it's the morning of or the day of and there are issues, it's going to create a kind of a scramble to try and get it fixed. So I do recommend 24 to 48 hours in advance, go do that final walkthrough. And then that way, if there are issues, I've been the listing agent where that happened. They waited till the morning of, they were doing the walkthrough. The sellers did not do what they needed to. The rest of the house was not cleaned out. They left a bunch of furniture. It was dirty, like they'd messed up one of the walls. So the buyers were like, yeah, we're not doing this until they come back. This was part of the agreement was it was to be fully cleared out. It was supposed to be cleaned. They didn't do that. And they were like, well, we already left. So, we're moving out of state 4 hours on the road. Buyer said, we're not closing. So it was a lot of back and forth with the title company, and they ended up saying, okay, withhold $500 to take care of X, Y, and Z. So try to give yourself a little bit more time.
Understood.
All right.
Christy, I have a question. So when we upload the template forms in the template, if there is a change in the form, so can it be updated automatically or we have to update manually?
It can be updated manually. So the templates are just um, like a pocket folder that has all the same information that's already filled out. So when you're into Zipforms and I go, I want a new buyer template and I apply the template, say I have all of those marked on that buyer acceptance and walkthrough form, for example. They chose to have an inspector. I have that set because that's what all of my clients do. But say they chose not to have an inspection. What I can do at that point is in my actual transaction. So I've already selected the template. It's already been applied to a new purchase transaction. I can go in manually to any of the forms and change any of the information that is in there already.
Thank you.
Alrighty. And then let's see here for J Paul, we've got, are we able to, let me see, offer the 1%? Okay, be very careful where it says, are we able to offer the 1% kickback from our 3% commission? One, we are never offering a kickback. That is illegal. Trek will come for your license. So no, no, no to the kickback. You can offer a rebate. So what we do at Ready, because the rebate is going to come through the brokerage. It'll be pulled because at Ready, when we file when we send what's called the commission disbursement authorization to the title company, it's going to show total commission is $12,000. I pay a flat $350 transaction fee. So $350 goes to Ready Real Estate. And then normally 11,650 would go to me. But I'm offering them 1%. So I would put that, it would have what's called a buyer contribution. So there's a separate little line, and that's where $4,000 goes to Joe Smith. And then my commission would be 7,650. So it's never coming directly from me, but are we able to offer the 1% from our 3% commission as well as ask? Yeah, that's a great question. Absolutely. And I highly encourage it. Your job is to get them the most amount of house for the least amount of money. That one's huge. So even if I'm giving them 1%, I'm still going to try whether it's closing cost assistance. The other reason why I don't like putting, we're doing a conventional loan and my buyer's putting 20% down. I never tell them that because I don't want them to know that we have money. I'm going to put the bare minimum. We're putting 5%. Like, hey, we're really kind of scraping the barrel here, because my lender partner, they're going to call and sell the loan to the listing agent. Hey, it's solid. I've already verified credit, income, contract, collateral, all the things that we need. Because at the end of the day, the 20% doesn't make a difference. The 400,000 is whether it's cash or a loan, $400,000 what ends up in the seller's bank account. So if they know I have 20%, now they know we have money to play with. So it's going to make it a lot harder when I'm trying to say, hey, they need 1% because they want to, do a rate buy down because we're at 7.1 right now. So you can absolutely do that. Just make sure if you're how that commission is being paid out. That's where that paragraph 12 B and C comes into play now. So if there's a compensation agreement, the listing brokerage is, paying that 3%. So you won't want to put 1 or 3% in box B. You're going to be putting it in box C, which is where for the buyer's closing cost assistance, or essentially the seller concessions. Okay, let's see here. Andrea, for new construction, some of my clients have opted to have their inspection by the 1 year mark. What's your opinion on that before closing? Both. A lot of buyers will opt out and say like, oh, I'm not going to do an inspection. It's a brand new home. It'll be fine. Everything has to be to code. I have seen some of the wildest things on new build construction inspections, like roofs in, like just really, really wild stuff. And buyers, it doesn't matter if it's their first or their fifth home, myself included, even when I purchased, a new build like last year, I have to really force myself to slow down and like nitpick and go through because everything's shiny and new and you're so excited and they miss so many things. So I want to have the inspection report done prior because they're buying a brand new home. This better be 100% perfect. It better be within reason. And that's gonna, plugs that don't work, bad shingle job. There's a lot that comes up on those reports. And then typically with new build construction, they have what's called the 210 bumper to bumper warranties. So, your first year is like plumbing, up to 2 years with electrical, and then 10 years for like foundation and structure. What most builders actually kind of require now is say you're in the home for 3 months and something goes wrong and then you put in a request to the builder. What most are doing now is kicking back and saying you have to wait unless it's something that's like dire or gonna like progressively get way worse over time. They want the buyers to be in the home for 1 year, and then they can submit, here's all the things we want you to fix as the builder. So that's what a lot of us like to do as the consumer is, now that we're 1 year in, I'm going to get another inspection done so I can find out literally everything that's wrong with the home that's covered, because everything's still pretty much under that 1 year mark. So about 11 months out, that's another great resource and reason to be able to touch base with your clients again. Hey, you're almost a year in your home. By the way, here's something I would recommend doing, because you're able to use your warranty, which, by the way, if you need a copy, I saved it for you in my ready dashboard. I'm going to send it over. But if you get an inspection, then you have a whole list of absolutely everything that's wrong that they can submit to the builder, so they get all of the repairs knocked out, and it's done by a professional. So it's not you just saying, well, I think the sink is leaky or the cabinets are a little wonky. Now it's actually going to show that from an inspector. All righty. Does anybody else have any other questions? Too easy. All right. You guys did fantastic today. We will be having the recording out again for all of the ready agents. If you guys have additional questions, we're also going to be putting our agent advocate, Sandy Caputo. She was in here today. So if you guys have additional questions on like the brokerage or how we operate, anything like that, we'll be touching base with you. I will also send out the list of those forms, all the TXR nomenclatures, so you guys will have that on hand. It makes it a little bit easier when you're trying to go through and save those. But other than that, you guys did fantastic today. If you have any other questions, again, I'll send a little recap email for everyone. I hope you guys have a great day and do great with creating your buyer templates. Be on the lookout for our next email template, which is going to be for the listing and seller templates. And then after that, how to use the checklist bucket automation system. And then ready agents, don't forget, we do have the integrations training already in the Zipforms folder on the dashboard. So if you're wanting to use like updater.com, Seller Shield, any of the integrated partners that are in there, we have how to link and set up those accounts as well. Thanks so much for being on, guys, and I hope you have a great day.